On today's World Insight, Macau's rich and diverse culture, the bedrock of education. School mentors and students tell us how it worked out for them since the region's return to China. Witness Macau in Transition, a World Insight special.
The Macau skyline remains the same, but the Macau to be is underway. On 20th anniversary of Macau's return to China, let me take you around the city. Explore Macau's diversified economy, from financial services to tourism and entrepreneurship. See up close Macau's aspirations, cultural diversity, rising infrastructures, and its vibrant younger generation. Macau in Transition, only on World Insight. Hello and welcome to Macau in Transition. I'm Tian Wei. This program is celebrating the 20th anniversary of Macau's return to China. Nobody is going to argue against the importance of education. However, what kind of education? There are tremendous science and technological changes going on in the world. Meanwhile, there are also circumstances changes here in the Greater Bay Area and also internationally. So many wonder what kind of education is available to the young people in Macau. On that, we are going to present you this special program today, in which we are going to talk to university professors, students, as well as presidents of universities here in Macau. First, let's meet Song Yonghua, the rector of University of Macau. The University of Macau is the largest comprehensive public university here in the Special Administrative Region. Let me ask you, Macau is in a transition. It should diversify its economy. What does that mean for university education, particularly University of Macau, the only comprehensive public university here?
First of all, because as a university, our main job is to nurture talents for Macau, Great Bay Area, and beyond. Of course, first for Macau. So with those change of diversified economy, what kind of graduates Macau need? Not just now, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. So what skills, which disciplines, and we need to think, and we need to plan, we need to adjust, we need to create programs in undergraduates, masters, and PhD.
I know you already have some blueprint. Tell us more about the details of this blueprint.
Of course, is what discipline, yeah, and we need in the face of the new technology. So, for example, we start to introduce new programs in data science, in artificial intelligence, and in interdisciplinary area. Secondly, of course, we need to provide the students with the skills, the values they need for the future in terms of what we call here whole personal education, and which included their international perspectives, and global mindset, multicultural communications.
All of this easier said than done. Where do you think is the starting point? I mean, even if, when you think about it, you try to plan, but 10 years from now, nobody knows, right? The technology development, science, as well as the situational changes here in the region is beyond imagination. The past 1 or 2 years already a demonstration of that. So what does that mean to you as an educator?
The purpose of education is not just for a student to find a job right now, is to provide those skills and many others they can depend on for the future. For example, whether our students studying humanities or social science, the first thing they need to be able to adapt to the changing world, I think, is the number one important in our education. Number two to think independently, critically.
Can you give me one specific example? You know, you talk about critical thinking.
Yeah.
You talk about multicultural communication.
Yeah.
How you and your colleagues have been doing that?
Yeah. We adopted the residential college system, and within residential college, and we provide whole personal education, cover, of course, health living, cover leadership and service, and through not just programs, not courses, and through many activities. So, for example, for our students to understand better how our country developed for those past 40 years, we send our students to not just Beijing, not just Shanghai, not just Guangzhou, those developed areas. We send them also to Guizhou, northwest of China, and Inner Mongolia, for them to understand there are still a lot of areas we need to develop. So with that background, for example, they see our country has made a big progress, but we still need to work hard.
You know, one of the things I really want to ask you is that, given the recent changes in the Greater Bay Area, many wonder what has been the way that the young people here in Macau been educated, and when they come to university, what can they expect in terms of trying to find the balance between their admiration of globalization, participation into it as well, and also their relationship with the mainland, and of course the pride that they should and deserve to have about their hometown. So how do you think university, is it too much, first of all, for university to bear in mind? What do you think about these very different areas about how students should be cultivated?
First of all, of course, our basic education, including primary and high school education, already provided them some foundation. For example, in understanding the development of Macau, and particularly after the return to China, the past 20 years, they have seen the success of Macau. As a university, we have to go beyond that, of course. And when they come to the university, and we need to get them to see not just their feeling, but what is one country system, what is the basic law. More than that, and we need to get them to understand their own career also heavily depends on how Macau integrated into Greater Bay Area, and the relationship of Macau with our motherland. We have internship programs within companies in Greater Bay Area and beyond. And we have exchange programs with mainland Chinese universities.
University of Macau could nurture so many talents, but whether these talents will be able to have access to stay in Macau or have places where they can go to in order to work for the future of Macau, it's not necessarily in your authority, but rather you have to work together with other educators here, with the special administrative government, to see how to attract talents who do not necessarily have a Macau resident card. So, Professor Rector Song, from your perspective, what needs to be done?
We hope that the Macau government to review the work permit system and to enable some of the talents we nurtured here at the University of Macau, and also the Macau lead as red law, they can actually stay, contribute. And the second, and more than that, I think Macau's government, as the word points out, need to diversify the economy here, and for the sustainable economic development of Macau into other key areas in addition to the tourism and gaming industry, like fiscal finance, like a creative industry.
Macau is having a diversified economy. That is the potential. But what do you think are some of the major areas the University of Macau could really contribute in terms of brainstorming as to where the future direction is. I know you have a specific nationally designated lab on smart cities and smart city planning. So, Professor, will that, together with some of the other areas, be some of the focus of your attention?
To make Macau, first of all, to be a smart city as a better place for the citizens to work, to live in, a better place for our tourists come to visit. So the Macau Israel government decided, and smart city is the way forward. So as a public university here, and so we established this state club to contribute to the development of smart city in Macau and also in Great Bay and also for China as a whole.
Recently, Rector Song, things happened in the surrounding areas of Macau, and people saw young people dissatisfied and took extreme actions. To you, as an educator, what does that say to you? What kind of signal does it send to you?
Younger generation is our future, and education play a key role in actually how we educate them to deal with different situations. So we myself in particular, we look at how our education system here done in Macau, right from primary school, secondary school to high school to the university, what the society can do, what the family can do, and what the individual student they need to do. So when we see those as a university, what do we need to do for them, and we need to help to understand the big picture first of all, what is happening around the world, what is happening in China, in Great Bay Area, and in Macau, and for them understand that some of the issues are globally, some of the issues are regionally, and some are locally, and secondly, for them to understand that as younger generations, we need to be responsible, and in particular, for Macau, we're under one country, two systems. What that does mean to Macau or to the Macau younger generations in terms of the development of Macau itself, and also each individual's relations and their future.
The Macau skyline remains the same, but the Macau to be is underway. On 20th anniversary of Macau's return to China, let me take you around the city. Explore Macau's diversified economy, from financial services to tourism and entrepreneurship. See up close Macau's aspirations, cultural diversity, rising infrastructures, and its vibrant younger generation. Macau in transition, only on World Insight. You're watching Macau in Transition. I'm Tian Wei. Today we're focusing on education here in Macau. Not only talking to the university president, but also talking to a group of students from the University of Macau to see what they have to say about their current life here on campus and their aspirations for the future. And I'm so glad sitting here in the library of University of Macau, joined by 3 students on campus. I got to know them just now, Eunice, Jimmy, and Katrina. What a pleasure to have the 3 of you on our show.
Glad to be here.
Good to see you here. Maybe we should let you to introduce yourself a little bit to our audience from all over the world. Let's start with you, Eunice.
Okay. Hello, my name is Eunice, and I'm a senior student majoring in accounting of University of Macau. So I was born in Foshan, Guangdong province, and when I was 14 years old, I moved to Macau with my family here.
So this is the place for you, for university?
Yes. Sure.
Okay, what about for you, Jimmy?
Okay, good morning. I am Jimmy. I am a second-year PhD student in history. I was born in Canton, and then my family moved here in 2012. Before coming to UM for my PhD studies, I went to the United States in Rhode Island. I attend Roger Williams University for my bachelor's and master's degree.
And there you are.
Yeah, sure.
What's your major here?
I study Chinese urban history.
Urban history and the pre-Republic time.
Correct.
Okay, fascinating. I'm going to let you to explore your major and what you're researching about and how it's related to Canton and also Macau here a little bit later. What about for you, Katrina?
Hi, I'm Katrina. I'm a final year student in the University of Macau. My major is biomedical science. Actually, my family immigrated to Macau 10 years ago, but I just start my college life here.
Wow, that's nice. So, you know, Macau is a fascinating place. Beautiful, and also per capita rich, I heard. But what does that mean for you as a student here on university campus? Eunice?
I think because Macau is a rich region, so I think the investment we put in our research about the equipment is very advanced. So it helps us to develop our research center here. Yeah.
Okay, so you enjoy the facilities.
Yeah.
What about professors, senior researchers, people that you can really look up to and discuss your topic?
Well, there are certain people that I can talk to. One of them is being my doctoral advisor. I believe he too spent several years in the U.S. and he started writing books and articles and let people know that this is what China's history looks like. And I think that's one of the reasons that I came here is to study with him. Is also something that I want to do is to follow his steps, to write history, to publish books, and let people know that modern time China is not the way that people think it is.
But you know, you grew up after Macau returned to China. So what was it like to be raised up in a gradually changing place, right? And see how Macau more interacting both with originally Hong Kong, of course, and Europe, but now more with the mainland.
I think 10 years ago in the Macau, you used to do different things. But
Yeah.
nowadays, it changed a lot, as you said. So the most interesting things for me is the Greater Bay Area. It's surrounding Macau, and it provides a lot of chance for me as a science student.
Just to explain to people what is the Greater Bay Area, because people from outside might not necessarily know, right? It's like Canton or Guangdong, as they say, and Hong Kong, Macau, all of these places will have quite a significant development hand in hand, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's the Greater Bay. You do see opportunity there.
Yeah.
What about for you, Jimmy?
Well, I think one of the things that this is my first time actually living in Macau for a long period.
Really?
So after I returned from the U.S. to Macau, I think that I have seen things that are a lot different. Well, before I actually lived here, I thought Macau is full of casinos and hotels, which I later discovered which that's not really the case. We have a lot of historical districts, and then they coexist with our modern buildings. I think that's one thing that I found very interesting, that how do we also have historic buildings, but at the same time that we are able to develop our economy.
You know, how to be, in a way, interact and communicate freely with ease among so many different cultures is something that your generation have to face all the time, because we're seeing a very updated version of globalization right now. Isn't it, Katrina?
I think the most important thing is you know who you are and you need to embrace all the challenges you're facing.
Wow, sounds like very encouraging. But who are you? Tell me, and what are the things you need to really learn, as you just said?
Like the critical thinking. Yeah, so we are sort of like not very good at it, I think, compared to the U.S. students. When I noticed on the U.S. class, but yeah, I think we should just grab every chance to improve our background knowledge and then learn more skills.
So I guess after you leave Canton, things are changing. Is it easy for you to go back and reconnect?
I find it's actually a bit hard for me because
How
we
come?
see different things.
Tell me more about that.
Most of them get married very soon, like the early stage of 20 or 21. But for us, we receive different kind of educations, and we thinking maybe we should pursue master degree. So the marriage age might be postponed a little bit.
So the small town life is not necessarily the life you desire anymore,
Yes,
right?
yes.
It's very interesting to see how the life paths are so different from one to another. Huh?
Yes.
I guess that's about life, isn't it? Yes, it is about life, Jimmy, isn't it? That you are coming back and doing your research here in University of Macau. What kind of support does that provide you, particularly when you, in terms of access to the resources on the mainland?
Right.
Not to forget that this is already one country, two systems, right? So does it help you much? What are some of the latest discoveries you have just had?
Well, one of the things that I went to the archives in Canton, and I was able to discover certain materials that, to my knowledge, I think no other person has used, which I believe that's the gold mine for history studies.
Tell me more about your gold mine,
Okay. Well,
if there's no secret in it.
well, I think one of the things that one of the documents that I discovered is that the very early age, the planning, the actual historical urban development plan, which I believe has way too many details concerning that was made more than 90 years ago. Yes, certain places that, okay, this district, or this row, even this row, like, what we're going to do, like, how wide is this row, how tall the buildings are, which I think is, to my surprise, is that they are able to do that like 90 years ago.
Particularly under that circumstances, when China was still in the feudal society in a way, and not many updated information about the city urban planning was available at that time. Sounds fascinating, really. But what about for you, Eunice? Competitiveness. How to? Your generation is going to face latest technologies. AI probably will reduce already the number of accountants in the world, which is your major, by the way. 5G increases the communication. Quantum physics makes all the big computer, gigantic computer possible. Not to mention another layer, geopolitics changes. And the circumstances in the Greater Bay Area, as we have seen some latest development, also changes very fast. What does that mean to you? To me, it was already mind-boggling. I wonder to Eunice, what does that mean?
I think lots of people think AI will replace the accountant in the future, but I think it did not, because
Eunice does not believe so.
Yeah, because AI is doing what the people told him to do. So even though it is very efficient, it can make the work quite efficient, but they only run the program. But the program, who designed the program, is the people design the program. So we can be the AI leader to command what the AI should do to help our work to make it more effective and more efficient. So I think for us as an accountant, if we do some management accounting work, especially in management level, so AI will not cause us a lot of concern.
Not stealing your job?
Yeah. No.
You don't think so?
I don't think so.
Competitiveness. How?
Well, I think one of the things I make myself competitive is that I have experienced living in the U.S. I learned how the Americans, how the Westerners study Chinese history, and then when I come back here, I was able to interact with Chinese scholars, and then learn this is the Chinese way to do history. I think that knowing both ways, I think that can make me very competitive.
Is there a much difference?
Well, I think that from a historical perspective, I think in the American way of doing history is that well, of course, you do history, you need sources. But I think that the American way is that it looks beyond just the sources. It applies to several theories, and then think about like what's the connections between this historic event, and then what their influence, and then how do they change politics, how they change the society.
Right.
Well, I think the Chinese way is more of we analyze the source based on the source itself. But I think both are good, but what if we do both together?
For you, Katrina? Competitiveness.
So that's why I try to pursue my master's degree in the UK, because I don't want to learn more about from a different place. They have different kind of knowledge backgrounds. So I think what I can learn from that, and I can bring back to Macau to contribute to the society.
Yeah. I was told, if someone who work in the local as a local dealer in a gaming industry, at least one could earn an average of 50,000 to 60,000 Macau Mao. That's pretty comfortable life.
Yeah.
But that's not, you told me earlier, the life you want.
Yeah.
You want something different.
Mm-hmm.
So how would you be able to, keep that balance in a way, find the balance between a comfortable life, a local life, a place I know, and my aspirations and my vision about where the world is heading for and therefore where I want to be. Mm-hmm. And also a booming China, Macau included, all together. What does that mean to you when you try to keep this balance? Eunice is having a deep thought right now, I could tell.
Yeah.
So how about for you, Jimmy? You go first.
Well, I've chosen a path to become a researcher or an educator, which I think that if you do that, there's certain things that you have to give up. And yes, as you said, maybe I can choose a different path and have a better comfortable life, but that isn't what I want. That isn't what I want to do. I think that my passion about history, I think that triumphs the having a comfortable life.
Triumph all the other factors. And for you, Katrina?
For me, actually, as a science student, especially specialized in the biological science, Macau don't have so many job opportunity for me yet, and so I'm thinking maybe I can have a chance to take a look on the Greater Bay Area, because there are not of relevant company industry over there, growing, developing. So I think it's a good way for me to see the different things around us.
It could provide you with a big base in a way,
yes.
right? So you can explore.
Yes.
And what about for you, Eunice?
I think to take a balance, I don't really want such a comfortable life in my young age.
You don't want to?
Yeah, because I think as a young student, we need to compete the life we want. So we just trace the life we want. So I may take an internship in United Kingdom during my master degree, and then when I come back to Macau, I think I may start up a new business.
Interesting. We see a lot of booming entrepreneur scenes here in Macau. Do you think that will be where your future is?
I hope so.
But it's a lot of challenges. Sometimes people fail too.
Yeah. So I think the attitude should be we need to accept the failure even though we may fail. Yeah.
Very encouraging, fascinating. It's been quite a great conversation. Now we are just a few days before 20th anniversary celebration. I guess from you, anything to share with our audience all over the world? Eunice?
I hope the future of Macau will be better and better. Yeah.
Okay.
And then for me as well.
Of course, of course. And Jimmy?
Well, come to Macau, experience the culture, and learn about the history.
Yeah.
I think that's what I would say to the audience out there.
Be our tour guide then.
Oh, sure. I'm happy to do that.
I would also say the same thing. Come and visit us. You can see the different Macau if you have traveled here before. So, and I'm so happy that Macau is developing so fast. And I hope that it will getting better and better.
This is the younger generation of Macau that we're talking about. A lot of energy, a lot of vitality, and certainly try to compete and challenge themselves. What a pleasure to get to know the three of you here in Macau and on the university particularly. And I know you're going to show me around a bit later.
Sure.
I would love it. Thank you so much,
Thank
Eunice,
you.
Jimmy, and Katrina. Thank you. And let's wave bye to our audience. Bye. Welcome back. You're watching Macau in Transition. I'm Tian Wei. We're focusing on education today. Earlier, we talked to the students of University of Macau, many of them emphasizing on the intercultural communication skills. Well, those skills are extremely important when they have bigger dreams of going to different parts of the world to study and to work. On that, I also talked to two professors who have the profession to teach a foreign language here in Macau. Let's listen to what they had to say. And joining us now in the studio, Professor Rosa Bizarro, Program Coordinator of the School of Languages and Translation of Macau Polytechnic Institute. Meanwhile, we also have Professor Zhang Yunfeng, who's the director of the Center for Portuguese Studies at also the same university, Macau Polytechnic Institute. What a pleasure to have both of you.
Thank you.
I feel so happy to celebrate the skyline of Macau behind us with both of you, because you are really the cultural expert. So tell me about your work. Mainly you're trying to bring in more celebration of cultural diversity here in Macau. Rosa.
I have some problems to express my feelings and my knowledge concerning the cultural life in Macau, because it's very rich. It offers lots of things to everyone of every age, every kind, every tastes.
But you know, people always think about Macau. They thought, oh, it's only gaming industry.
No, it's not so. I can tell you, I cannot enter a casino. And I'm very happy here, and I cannot enter because I work to a public institution. And I'm glad of that. And my cultural life is as much so good as if I was in Europe, I can tell you.
Interesting.
So,
you
yes.
came here 6 years ago.
Yes, yes. I was a professor at the University of Porto in Portugal, and I always wanted to work with foreign people, because my specialty is Portuguese as foreign language.
Teaching Portuguese as a foreign language.
Yes.
I see. Wonderful. But what about for you, Professor Zhang? You know, how to make sure actually the cultural roots of Macau is fully explored? That is a big topic as facing Macau right now.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think we talk a lot about the diversity of cultures and language in Macau. So if you ask me to choose only one word or one adjective to describe the city, it should be unique. And in my opinion, Macau,
I can see both of you are proud of this. No doubt about that.
No doubt about that. In my opinion, the first unique thing in Macau is the diversity of languages and culture. So how many languages and dialects can we speak or use in Macau? The answer is 4. We have Mandarin, that is 普通话, we have Cantonese, we have Portuguese, and we have also English. So actually we are living in a multilingual and a multicultural society. Nowadays, we talk a lot about the Guangdong, Hong Kong, Macau, Greater Bay Area, and the Portuguese-speaking countries again, and regions. And it's easy to find that Macau is the only one who appeared in both of these two lists. And actually, my work is strictly related to Macau's uniqueness. As I mentioned, we may speak Portuguese, Chinese, and English to communicate in Macau. So the translation and the interpretation between these 3 languages turn out to be a challenge we must face. And our solution is intelligence, artificial intelligence, and machine translation. Because with the development of the advanced technologies, such as big data and cloud computing, we are trying to make machine to help human beings with the translation.
I see. You see, Rosa was trying to brief me about the cultural roots, and Yunfeng, you already dragged me all the way to the 22nd century, the AI technologies. Having said that, though, let me ask both of you, you know, how to really explore the real cultures of Macau. I'm not talking about gaming industry, because that's just one cash revenue for Macau, but the real cultures of Macau, dating back hundreds and even more than 1,000 years. I think that is one thing. If Macau wants to have a different image in front of the world, really need to dig and research about. Rosa.
First of all, to meet Macanese people. And Macanese people are special because they are the fruit of a joint venture between Portuguese and Chinese.
Yes.
culture.
Meaning the mechanism, meaning those Portuguese people or people who are offsprings of the Portuguese origin that stay here in Macau and become a very special group of their own,
Yes,
in a way.
yes.
And of course they interact with the overall society.
For sure. And that's also something very interesting, because we can see Macau is a small region, but that integrates lots of peoples of different origins. And every small groups have something to give to Macau,
offer, yes.
to offer to China, to the world.
Yeah.
And it's true that the food, the festivals, the concerts, the shows of everything speak about that meeting.
Okay, people who have not been traveling here in depth, they will not see the real interaction among so many different cultures here in Macau. It's not about that we have people here in this part of Macau and then different social groups in that part of Macau. It's really a real interaction, all mixed. Whatever you talk about, it's about food, the living quarters, education, anything. So that's probably very unique, Yuanfeng of Macau. How to take advantage of that? Once again, I think that is a challenge, but also an opportunity.
Yes, of course. In Macau, we may find, for example, Chinese and Portuguese architecture everywhere in this small but beautiful city. And actually, in Macau, it's easy to find the typical elements of Portuguese culture. For example, the Portuguese pavement and the famous Portuguese custard tart, which is very popular and famous in Macau. So I think Macau can take advantage of its diversity of the culture to try to build and play as a platform with the China and the Portuguese-speaking countries. Actually, if we talk a little about the economy, since 1999, the economy of Macau has witnessed a rapid growth, which ensured the role Macau is playing as the surface platform for the trade cooperation between Portuguese and speaking countries. So this is very important, not only for Portugal, for China, but also for all the Portuguese speaking countries.
Rosa?
It's a huge program.
It's a huge task.
Yes, yes. And women and men of science.
Gender.
Yes, I would say that Macau can get the contribution of other academics in all over the world, can strengthen the possibility of doing exchange with other universities, other institutions of culture that can also be the future's ambassadors of local interests and local culture.
Macau,
if you wish,
go ahead.
maybe I could give you another example. I'm sorry, I'm thinking about it now. Nowadays, in China, there are more than 40 universities in which Portuguese is taught as a foreign language. So a lot of students, a lot of teachers who is teaching Portuguese, they want to have more collaboration with Portugal and the Portuguese-speaking countries. And in this way, Macau is playing a role as a bridge connecting these universities from China to the universities of the Portuguese-speaking world. So as the way the university we are working, we helped these Chinese universities to have cooperation in the research, and we have the movement of students with the Portuguese, with the Brazilian universities. And this will help a lot to improve the teaching and the Portuguese research.
If you think about Macau, it really should celebrate its 20th anniversary, many say, because even for the issue of one country, two systems, which is a vision set forward earlier by Mr. Deng Xiaoping to have the earlier foreign colonies of China return back to China. Hong Kong, Macau are examples. Macau is setting a very unique and successful precedence for the others to follow. So in a way, how does culture play its role in the past 20 years since Macau's return to China?
I think our institution, Macau Polytechnic, Institute is a good example of what local heads can do with foreigner heads also, and proves that we are really willing to strengthen the cohesion between China and Portuguese-speaking countries.
You know, Yunfeng, Macau originally was a small place, though, but it plays an important role as ports, hundreds and more than hundreds of years. And then there was the colonial time, which when other cultures also came into Macau in one way or another. After the return of Macau to China, there's also a celebration of how Macau interacting with all the latest changes and progress on the mainland. So how do you see, these different stages of Macau, culturally speaking, yeah? And how does how would they eventually bring out the real essence of Macau? I'm sure scholars like you would take a look at that.
And in my opinion, after the return of Macau to China, actually the Portuguese language is becoming more and more important in Macau. More and more students are interested to learn this language, because this language can help Macau to improve the relationship between China and Portuguese countries. I think that the role that Macau is playing is quite different from the role in the past years. Now the role is quite different because the economy grows a lot in Macau, and the role that Macau can play in the whole world is quite different. It's more and more different, especially in the relationship between China and Portuguese-speaking countries. And even for the culture, so we are foreign language teachers. We not only teach foreign languages, we also teach culture.
Yes.
Culture is quite important for every student who is learning a foreign language.
Professor Rosa Pizarro and Professor Zhang Yunfeng, really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And that is all the time we have for today. Thanks for watching. On behalf of my team here in Macau and Beijing, see you tomorrow.